Hi, I'm Ben Newton from Sumo Logic, and I'm excited to talk to you today about how you can join the modern DevSecOps revolution and how you can get more out of your data. Now, what we're looking at here is an application dashboard that shows me everything I need to know about end-to-end visibility from code to production, performance, security, and business. That's DevSecOps. No more data silos. It's all in one place. Now, if we start here at the top, we can see a little bit about how my users are experiencing the application. So we can see latency. How long is it taking for things to happen for them? How many people are logging in? I've clearly got some dips here, which we're going to have to look into in a little bit. I can see the checkout flow for my application. This is where the revenue comes in. So this is extremely important for me to keep track of in real time. Now we can dig one level down and start talking about how is the website performing. So here I can see the amount of data. I can see where the requests are coming from. I can see if I'm getting access codes that might indicate a problem. Now, it's not just about performance. It's also about security. Am I protecting my application? Am I protecting my users' data? So here I can see the threats in real time. I can see how many threats I have. Are they actually an issue or not? What type of threats? So obviously, I don't need to pay to the low priority threats, but I need to pay attention to those that are high priority and might indicate someone trying to take advantage of us. Now, if we move a little further down, we actually start to see how the application itself is acting. So here we can see system performance and error analysis. So I can see all the different servers I'm running, how much CPU they're using, how much memory they're using, network performance, and logs as well. Now, we remember up at the top that we were having some issues with logins. So here we can see some pretty erratic behavior. There's some servers in particular that are doing some strange things. I might need to look into that. I can also see a huge uptick in errors here. And it looks like there's some servers that are having some particular issues. And I can also see from our tool LogReduce, which uses machine learning to identify patterns in the logs, the different kinds of patterns I'm seeing. So I can see failed logins, but I can also see something about a JDBC timeout. So maybe that's something to look into. Now, the first thing I want to do is I actually want to filter down this data. I can't look at all this data at once. So we go into the filters that are built into the dashboard here, and I'm going to look for server 01. So you can see here that it automatically filled out the options here. So I'm going to pick server 01. Now the dashboard is going to automatically reload. So here I can start to see CPU performance. I can actually see the outliers, so the anomalies in this. This is not what's expected based on previous performance. I can see that there's been some particular issues with memory. Some spikes and errors, and I can also see those different patterns here that we were talking about. So there's clearly some issues that I need to look further into. Now, I've identified one particular system that might be an issue, but I'm still looking at this at a very high level. I really want to dig down and be able to look at this in more detail. So I'm going to drill down. And now we're going into our performance analysis space where we can actually look at the time series metrics. We can look at the performance metrics. So here I see that CPU performance. Now what I'd really like to see, is how the memory is performing. You can see all the different options here. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to put this on a different axis. All right, now I'm seeing all the different memory components for this system, and I'm seeing there's high correlation. We're obviously getting some parts of the application that are maxing out on memory, so there's probably an issue that they're spinning their wheels and not really accomplishing anything. Now, what I might also want to do is compare this to other systems that are actually being used here. So maybe I can take and look at all the compared systems in the cluster and take a look at that. Okay, let's turn off the memory here. And so here we can see that the rest of the systems are actually fairly steady compared to my system here. So there's clearly something going on. Now, we still don't know root cause. We know there's symptoms here, but we don't actually know what's happening. Now, what I want to do is I want to look into the logs. I want to look for error or exceptions or failures. And I want to look at that on top of my metrics here so I can actually correlate what's happening. Okay, so now we're seeing those same spikes that we were talking about before. So I actually want to dig into that. And here we can see a lot of different failures, but it's actually hard to pick out what the problem is here because there's so many messages in here. So we can see the logs and we can see that there's some issues going on here, but we're not sure exactly what's going on because we're just being overwhelmed by these failure messages. So what I really want to do is I want to use log analytics to actually delve into what might actually be going on here. Now we're still looking at a lot of different log messages, several hundred. Now what we can do is we can use the LogReduce tool that we talked about before and actually turn this into signatures. Now if I run that, it's using machine learning based on previous activity and turning this into recognizable patterns. So it's basically like it's reverse engineering what was actually in the code. So now we can see out of 700 different messages, there's only 3 patterns. There's failed logins, a couple different types, and now we see the smoking gun. An exception occurred while connecting to a remote machine. So basically, someone probably moved the certificate, which actually caused authentication to fail, which caused a bunch of application components to spin, use up a lot of memory, which then prevented users from logging in. And now we have our issue. So this is something I can go in and fix. So we took it all the way from a business KPI that was showing us that users were having problems logging in, all the way down to an actual smoking gun issue that we can go fix.